millions of humans drag themselves out of bed, consume stimulants, and surrender the next 8-10 hours of their irreplaceable lives to the soul-crushing machinery of modern survival. And they'll repeat this ritual roughly 2,000 more times before they're either too old to be useful or lucky enough to accumulate enough resources to stop. This isn't a choice. It's a hostage situation dressed up as freedom. But I chose my career. I love my job. Some of you protest. Sure. And prisoners love their 1 hour in the yard. The fact that you found ways to enjoy your confinement doesn't change the fundamental reality. You must trade your limited time on Earth for basic survival needs, or face homelessness, hunger, and social death. The question isn't whether this arrangement exists. It obviously does. But rather, has it always been this way? Is it intrinsic to human existence? Or are we participating in a manufactured system that could be different? To answer that, we need to trace how we got here, examine what keeps us trapped, and confront the uncomfortable question of whether escape is even possible. Let's start by shattering a common misconception: the idea that humans have always been forced to work for survival in the way we understand work today is historical fiction. It's a bedtime story the modern economy tells itself to justify its own existence. Early hunter-gatherer societies operated fundamentally differently. Anthropological evidence suggests these communities typically worked only 3-5 hours daily to meet their basic needs. The remainder of their time was spent in leisure, social bonding, and cultural activities. There was no separation between work and life. Survival activities were embedded within the community's existence. Then humans decided to play God with nature, domesticating plants and animals, creating food surpluses. The agricultural revolution wasn't freedom. It was the first prison blueprint. You think farming brought abundance? What it really brought was the original power imbalance. Those surpluses created new power dynamics. Some individuals could now control resources, while others needed access to those resources to survive. This wasn't just an economic shift. It was the birth of coercion as we know it. With agriculture came the division of labor, private property, and hierarchical social structures. These innovations dramatically increased productivity but also fundamentally altered the relationship between humans and their survival needs. You were no longer directly connected to your sustenance. You now had to go through an intermediary system, be it a feudal lord, a company, or a market. The Industrial Revolution accelerated and intensified this dynamic. Before industrialization, most people still worked in and around their homes. The factory system physically separated work from the rest of life, introduced the tyranny of the clock, and stripped workers of autonomy over their productive processes. Adam Smith's pin factory, that famous example of how dividing labor creates efficiency, wasn't just describing productivity. It was documenting the active dismantling of human wholeness. When a person who once crafted entire products is reduced to performing a single repetitive task, something essential is lost. As Smith himself later worried, such a worker becomes as stupid and ignorant as it is possible for a human creature to become. Each economic system that emerged from this history, feudalism, capitalism, socialism, communisms, offered different answers to the question of how resources should be allocated and who should control the surplus, but none fundamentally challenged the premise that human time must be exchanged for survival needs. Capitalism promised freedom through markets and private property. In theory, you're not forced to work for any particular employer. You can choose your master. How liberating. In practice, when the means of production are concentrated in fewer and fewer hands, your choice becomes increasingly theoretical. Socialism and communism promised liberation through collective ownership, and from each according to ability, to each according to need. But in practice, these systems often replaced market coercion with state coercion. You still had to work. Now it was for the collective good, determined by party officials rather than market signals. The common thread across all these systems is the persistent requirement to trade your time for basic necessities, regardless of whether you consent to the arrangement. This dynamic has been called wage slavery since ancient times, with thinkers from Cicero to Marx noting the parallel between selling your labor and selling yourself. But that's just reality, you object. Someone has to grow the food, build the shelters, maintain the infrastructure. We can't all just opt out. That's true. All functioning societies require labor to meet basic needs. The question isn't whether work needs to be done. It's about how that work is organized, who decides what work is valuable, how the products of that work are distributed, and whether individuals have meaningful choice in their participation. Most of us aren't upset about contributing to society. We're upset about being forced to sell our time to survive, often in ways that feel meaningless, exploitative, or destructive, with no real ability to negotiate the terms. The problem isn't work. It's compulsory work within a system we never consented to join. Some argue technology will save us from this trap. Automation, artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, and energy abundance could theoretically eliminate the need for human labor in meeting basic needs. The Kardashev scale suggests that reaching Type 1 civilization status, where we harness all energy available on Earth, could fundamentally alter resource scarcity and how we organize society. With unlimited energy and automated production, could we finally break free from mandatory work? Would food synthesizers and self-maintaining infrastructure liberate us from the time for survival exchange? Unfortunately, the history of technological progress suggests otherwise. Every major technological revolution promised to reduce human labor. Each delivered the opposite. The Industrial Revolution's machinery was supposed to lessen work hours. Instead, it intensified them. Computers were supposed to create a paperless, leisurely office. Now we're all accessible 24/7 through our devices. Dishwashers and vacuum cleaners were supposed to reduce domestic labor. Studies show we spend just as much time on housework as before. We just have higher standards. Technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. It operates within power structures that determine how its benefits are distributed. And those power structures have consistently ensured that productivity gains translate to more profit rather than more freedom. Even if we achieved a post-scarcity economy through technological advancement, new forms of artificial scarcity would likely emerge. We're extraordinarily good at inventing things to want after our needs are met. What about alternative models like gift economies or resource-based systems? Throughout history, some societies have functioned without explicit quid pro quo exchanges. From potlatch ceremonies to open-source software, humans have demonstrated the capacity to contribute without direct compensation. But scaling these systems to complex modern societies presents enormous challenges. Gift economies work well in small communities with strong social bonds. They struggle with the economic calculation problem, how to efficiently allocate resources without price signals, and with maintaining production incentives in anonymous large-scale interactions. The Venus Project and similar resource-based economy proposals suggest we could organize society around the rational management of Earth's resources for everyone's benefit. But they never adequately explain who does the managing, how conflicts are resolved, or how to handle the messy reality of diverse human desires and priorities without some form of coercion. Even if we solved the practical challenges, we'd still face the psychological dimension. Humans need purpose. We derive meaning, identity, and satisfaction from productive contribution. In a world without mandatory work, we'd still seek activities that provide structure, mastery, and connection. The difference would be autonomy, the ability to choose our contributions based on internal motivation rather than external necessity. This distinction is crucial for psychological well-being. When you do something because you want to, rather than because you must to avoid starvation, the entire experience transforms. So where does this leave us? Are we permanently trapped in this cycle, eternally trading our lives for the right to exist? I'd love to offer a revolutionary solution, a 5-point plan to dismantle the system and usher in a new era of human freedom. But I'm not going to lie to you. The mandatory game isn't going anywhere soon. The structures forcing this exchange of time for survival are entrenched in our economic systems, our laws, our social norms, and even our self-concepts. They're reinforced by those with power and internalized by those without it. Most people can't even imagine alternatives, dismissing them as utopian fantasies. On an individual level, your best bet is to maximize your leverage within the existing system. Develop rare and valuable skills. Minimize your consumption needs. Build community support networks. Find work that aligns with your values and provides as much autonomy as possible. But understand that these are adaptations to a fundamentally coercive arrangement, not escapes from it. Collectively, we can push for reforms that reduce the brutality of the exchange. Shorter work weeks, universal basic income, stronger safety nets, more democratic workplaces. We can create pockets of alternative economic relations through cooperatives, mutual aid networks, and commons-based projects. Yet true liberation from the mandatory exchange of time for survival would require a fundamental restructuring of our relationship with resources, property, and each other. It would demand a level of coordination and value shift that seems damn near impossible within our current paradigm. The ultimate irony is that you're watching this video during time you're not selling your precious free time. You're using these scarce minutes to understand why you have so few of them to begin with. And what will change as a result? Absolutely nothing. The game continues uninterrupted while you continue contemplating your beautiful cage. You'll still wake up tomorrow, consume your stimulants, and report to wherever you sell your hours. The system will continue extracting your life energy in exchange for meeting needs that every human should be entitled to simply for existing. But you came here looking for answers, and all I've given you is the cold reality that we're all stuck in the same fucking game of mandatory exchange. Just with different privileges, different constraints, and different illusions of freedom.